Chapter 3100 begins with Catherine reflecting on her past experiences of being mistreated by her adoptive family. Despite Catherine not being their biological child, the family's abusive treatment of her was mirrored in how they also mistreated Shiloh, their actual daughter, who was raised in the affluent and powerful Farrell household. Catherine observes that after living a life of privilege in the Farrell family, Shiloh was unable to handle the hostility and demands of her biological family, leading to her tragic death. Catherine blames Shiloh's biological family for pushing her to the brink, forcing her to take her own life. However, Sage is skeptical of this narrative. He suspects foul play, believing that Shiloh's brothers may have been directly involved in her death, possibly pushing her from the building. His suspicions underscore the uncertainty surrounding the true circumstances of her fall, adding an air of mystery and tension to the story. Meanwhile, Matriarch Farrell visits Holden in the hospital, where he is bedridden, devastated by Shiloh's death. Holden's appearance, haggard, with red and swollen eyes from excessive crying, reflects the depth of his grief. Despite his anguish, Holden confesses that he had known about Shiloh's death the previous night. He recounts how Shiloh had fallen from the building, hitting her head and dying instantly from the trauma. Doctors pronounced her dead on the scene, and her body was taken directly to the funeral home. Holden, in his grief, refuses to accept that Shiloh's death was a suicide. He strongly believes that her biological mother and brothers were responsible for her death, suspecting that they had pushed her in a moment of rage. In his desperation, Holden pleads with Matriarch Farrell to investigate Shiloh's death, arguing that it was not an accident. He appeals to Matriarch Farrell's maternal instincts, reminding her of the more than 2 decades they had spent raising Shiloh, even though Shiloh was not her biological daughter. He tries to sway her by saying that despite any resentment she might have harbored towards Shiloh, the young woman had always respected her as a mother. However, Holden's grief and accusations take a sharp turn when he blames Catherine for orchestrating Shiloh's demise. In his warped perspective, Holden believes that Catherine, his biological daughter, was jealous of Shiloh's position in the family and had used cunning and manipulation to push her out of favor with Matriarch Farrell. He accuses Catherine of masterminding Shiloh's downfall, not to eliminate her competition for the position of family heir, but also to turn Matriarch Farrell against both him and Shiloh. In Holden's eyes, Catherine's success would be cemented by Shiloh's death, allowing her to secure her place as the uncontested successor to the Farrell Empire. Matriarch Farrell, however, remains rational and unshaken by Holden's wild accusations. She listens calmly as Holden rants, fully aware of his long standing bias in favor of Shiloh and his blind disregard for Catherine. Despite her initial favoritism towards Shiloh, Matriarch Farrell had come to recognize Catherine's exceptional business talents and had begun nurturing her biological daughter to take over the family's legacy. In contrast, Shiloh, though once seen as a successor, lacked Catherine's acumen and had ultimately fallen short of the expectations placed on her. Matriarch Farrell reflects on her journey of accepting Catherine as her rightful heir, a decision driven not by sentiment, but by the realization that Catherine was naturally gifted in business. Even though Shiloh was raised with love and privilege, she could not compete with Catherine's capabilities, which were honed despite her difficult upbringing. This realization had made Matriarch Farrell shift her focus, investing in Catherine's future as the leader of the Farrell family. Addressing Holden's accusations, Matriarch Farrell firmly denies any involvement of Catherine in Shiloh's death. She acknowledges that Catherine may have deceived Shiloh and Holden in some ways, but clarifies that the real culprit behind Shiloh's downfall was Marco, Holden's biological son and Erica's husband. Matriarch Farrell reveals that Marco had unwittingly become embroiled in Shiloh's affair, driven by an aphrodisiac secretly slipped into his drink by his wife Erica. Matriarch Farrell emphasizes that it was Marco's actions, not Catherine's, that led to the scandal and ultimately to the events that pushed Shiloh to her tragic end. The chapter closes with Matriarch Farrell's firm stance, revealing her unwavering determination to protect her biological daughter Catherine from the unfair accusations leveled against her. The Farrell family remains divided, with Holden still unable to see beyond his grief and bias, clinging to his belief that Catherine is responsible for Shiloh's death. As tensions continue to simmer, the chapter leaves us questioning how the family will move forward from this tragedy and what the future holds for both Catherine and the Farrell legacy.